I'm silly. Okay. Chaos, but Turflies. You guys can't even see what I'm talking about. Let's switch over to this scene, and hopefully Forge is gonna load for me. I don't even know if we necessarily need Forge for any of the recap we're gonna do today, but might as well have it up. I like having visual aids to prop up any time where I am. It gives me something to fidget with, which may or may not enhance the content, but it does enhance my travel, my journey through the content. So that's not what I wanted to do. So last time, we didn't stream the last session because it was happening last Wednesday. I participated in the blackout. I wasn't sure which, there were a lot of allegations coming forward about various streamers on Twitch, and blackout was in protest basically of Twitch like not doing anything with these partners who've like kind of abused their spot on the platform to like take advantage of people, whether like various ways, including like up to sexual assault, but many kind of infractions below that, right? So I participated in the blackout, really. I was going back and forth on whether to like go live and talk about it or take part in the blackout, but I decided we'll do the blackout. I'll upload the stuff later to YouTube and Twitch to have it in the VODs, and we're probably not going to talk about it anyway. We're doing a session, like it probably won't come up. And then we talked about it for like 45 minutes at the start, so I don't know. Was it the right thing not to go on live? I'm not super sure, but anyway. So that will be uploaded at some point. I haven't done it yet because I've been slightly busy and like just kind of preoccupied. Busy weekend, busy couple of days, trying to balance being on vacation with like streaming, and like, do I spend the vacation time on streaming or do I just relax for the week so I don't burn out of everything, haven't quite found the alignment, but so point being, I haven't done kind of the back end work of uploading that anywhere yet or cutting up VODs, so that's behind. But what happened during that session, it was the aftermath of a pretty big deal session where like the party was like, we're gonna go, we have this quest item, we can turn it in to take the throne, we know this, we're gonna go do that, and then we're going to interrogate a lot of the important people in this city. We're going to see if they had anything to do with like these sand people, these sand constructs that have been trying to like kill us, and also if they had anything to do with the death of the previous emperor whose throne we're now taking. So they did that, did the interrogation, found a culprit who was pointing some fingers elsewhere, and disposed of him in a rash moment. That's all the prior session. Last session was kind of a cleanup from that, kind of couple of like character specific scenes, vignettes going along. So we had like Solace, who had been kind of like framed for the death of the leader of like a guild he was in, kind of a adventuring guild. He was framed for the leader's death, and the person who framed him took that leader's seat of power on the council in the city. And so he went to like talk to kind of the second in command, have a brief discussion there, being like, hey, we gotta keep it on the hush-hush, but the guy above you like died, so you're not gonna see him for a bit. And then like it's kind of Solace like reconnecting with this NPC who he knew from before and trying to figure out where this NPC was at, if they were like loyal to Calvin, the guy who died, or if a lot of guys have died at this point. The councilman who had framed Solace, if he was like loyal to this guy, or if he had negative feelings about Solace, and it, basically it came out that no, this guy wasn't really a fan of Calvin, wasn't, was indifferent at best, and kind of always thought there was something weird about the way Solace was like kind of arrested for that crime, basically. It was under suspicious circumstances, corroborated by like an eyewitness who then like kind of disappeared. So it's like this, it didn't feel right to me. And so they kind of connected there. Solace gave him this like badge. It's like a set of antlers that signifies kind of a creature called the Guardian that like kind of defends the forests of Eden from outsiders, basically. It's kind of the mythology behind the symbol. Handed this like badge to the guy very covertly. He like kind of covered it up and took it. And Sona said like, maybe keep me in mind when you're thinking of someone else to wear that badge. And then like left. And then Ludwig at the the industrious goblin. His friend Solace is being elevated to the Emperor of Eden. Solace has asked Ludwig to be his advisor. So no sooner does Solace leave the building to like go check out the river keep and kind of unofficially take the throne. He's not being coronated yet, but to kind of like start assuming the duties, start filling the space. Ludwig immediately started talking to the counselors in Eden about like what's going on, what can be done about some of the things happening, like personal to Ludwig, but also like some of the broader stuff going on around the city and around the land. There were a lot of conversations there. The probably big important one was he pulled out this bottle that held a black ember from Salamander's lieutenant, Burning Man. I'm throwing a lot of proper nouns at you. I apologize if anyone has like missed out on prior recaps and has no idea who I'm talking about, but Salamander, the god that the party has slain, Burning Man was his lieutenant that the party also slew, had this like black ever-burning ember. I think it was black. It's an ember that never goes out anyway. And Ludwig has capped it in a bottle, and he's like carrying it around with him, trying to figure out what its deal is. And he was talking to like the priest of the new divinities, basically. Name is Numeri, and was like, "Can you tell me anything about this?" And she said, "Well, it's an angry little thing. It's not from this world." And Ludwig was like, "Oh, that doesn't sound great." She was like, "Yeah, I would." Very calmly, she was like, "I would recommend you destroy that if you get the opportunity." And he's like, "Well, how do I do that?" She's like, "I don't know." I don't know, but might bite you if you don't. I would recommend you look into that. So there was that scene, and then there was like Solace kind of getting used to the river keep, getting introduced to it, looking around, trying to kind of get into the previous emperor's effects, his personal belongings. But there's like a lot of doors without locks that will not open for him. There's a chest without a lock in Adam, the previous emperor, in his quarters that like won't open for him. There's like a door that won't open in one of the towers that's supposed to go to one of his studies. Stuff like that, all over the palace and all over the river keep. And so he's trying to figure that out. And like there was a neat scene kind of where he was like, he asked where the kitchen was so he could go make himself eggs, and like had the head of the kitchen kind of show him where to find stuff. Basically, the first thing you do when you become royalty, pilfer all the previous royalty stuff. Absolutely. When the previous emperor is like a seasoned adventurer, there's like slightly more reason to do so. And like, since he didn't have any, he does have family, but it's complicated. His family technically includes the entirety of the human race for reasons that have been covered in previous recaps, but he was the first human. It was just kind of assumed that like the next emperor would inherit his stuff because there wasn't really anywhere else for it to go. no one for it to give it to, really. This is how the council voted anyway. So yeah. And yeah, Solace had the kitchen kind of shown to him by the head chef so he could, like, make his own food. And he was like, look, I just wanted to make his own food. Which, I think there was some cool interaction there. But then the big scene of the session... Wow, I scrolled way up. The big scene of the session happened shortly after that. Ludwig and Solace... Sorry. Jesus. Never used to do that. Ludwig and Solace were approaching the River Keep to go meet up with Solace. And there was kind of a crowd there, and they're like, huh, what's going on here? What's the deal with this? And then they found out that a rival who they know has been, like, trying to get the throne, someone who went after Salamander to get his head. Please don't talk about this? Wait, why? Wait, why? Oh no. Cease and desist. But it's very important to the recap. Can I do it in low detail? FBI, open up. I will actually stop if you prefer that I not go on. So if this opposition is for the memes, let me know so I can continue. I will take a drink of water for the moment. No, it's fine. Okay. Just a shame. You're fine. There was some friction going forward from this point. I will disclaim that. Friction between two of the players. Two of the characters. Combination of the two. And I think we worked a lot of it out. It was just kind of like a situation, we'll get to it. Situation where, like, one player's decision kind of causes a big stir for all of the party. Like, and there, you know. In the heat of the moment, you don't always, like, make these decisions as a party. Sometimes a character just says the thing. I've done it before, certainly, and it just, like, happened. The consequences were instant and obvious and mostly limited to my character if things went wrong. If things went well, it was the entire world that was not succumbed to being transformed into a devil land. But anyway, not talking about that campaign right now. Point being, I have done the same thing. Other people I've played with have done the same thing. It was just like, in this particular case, it felt especially like, we'll get to it. I'll talk to it specifically in a moment. So Brass, standing outside Riverkeep. This man had tried to get to Salamander ahead of the party. Or, you know, basically assumed that the party was going to fail at killing Salamander. And then the party succeeded. And he has now arrived back home several days after the party. And he has shown up at the Riverkeep with, like, a couple of his people. And he's demanding to see the new emperor. And the guards are like, the new emperor hasn't been coronated. Like, you're not getting in. He's definitely buttered. And Ludwig sees this and he walks up and he's like, hey, Brass, welcome back. What can we do for you? And Brass is like, basically just says, I want to speak to the emperor. And Ludwig is like, we can do that. I think we all want what's best for Eden. So let's have a chat. Let's go talk. And Sonus kind of walks up at about the same time. And they all, you know, they ask the guards to open the gate. Guards, knowing that Ludwig is, like, kind of the new advisor, are like, okay, yeah, sure. They open the gate. They let them in. Runner goes to get Solace. They all meet in the courtyard. And Brass is like, let's see, what's the short version here? The essence of what Brass says is, I don't trust you with my city. So I challenge you to a duel, and whoever wins can take the throne. You know, it was decided that you get the throne by force by killing Salamander. Now I challenge you to another, like, test of force to see if you can keep it. And he's got no way to reinforce this challenge, really. Like, Solace is not under any obligation to take the challenge. And so basically, Solace just says no. And there's a lot of back and forth about, like, why Brass wants to do this when, like, he didn't want to lean on his blood before. And now he's basically saying, like, okay, this is my city, give it to me. But, you know, from Brass's perspective, like, challenging the current emperor to a duel and, like, succeeding is another way of earning the throne for his own. Oh, yeah, I just said stuff about blood without explaining. This guy is the previous emperor's son. Like, technically illegitimate. It's kind of... There's a lot of those floating around, but he's, like, the only direct blood son that they have on hand. Supposedly, yeah. That seems to be the case at the moment. Anyway, so, like, his whole thing has been, I want to take the throne by earning it, not by, you know, not because of whose son I am. Because it's not like all of humanity is his literal children, right? Yeah. Well, I'm just, you know. It's a little different when Adam is your father versus your great X25 grandfather. You know. It's in the lore. Yes. Yes. Very close blood relative is the point. But yeah, so Solace says no. Brass is like, all right. Turns and starts to leave. And then that happens like 4 times. We're not going to cover every time he turns to leave. But Solace basically says, now hold on. If you can bring me the head of this sand mage that's been like trying to assassinate us, been assassinating other people, been doing the bidding of Calvin Aton, who is now dead. You can find this dangerous mage, who seems to have an interest in getting Brass on the throne, by the way, just by what the party knows. If you bring me his head, then you can have the throne. I will give it to you. Brass is like, okay. Like, nods. Like, I can do that. And that's basically the agreement that is struck, and then Brass leaves. This is where, like, kind of the tension and friction comes in a little bit, because Ludwig's got to a point where a lot of stuff was unlocked for him by being Solace's, like, advisor. Like, he had direct access to the council and a lot of other things, like a lot of power by being the Emperor's advisor. So, like, a lot of doors opened up. He started exploring those doors, and then it kind of felt like the doors were maybe closing on him again, without, like, his you know, his say going into it at all, which is, like, kind of a fair way to feel. And, like, if that's a character feeling only, I'm very for it. I like interplayer character tension. I like that. When in, like, the player's mind that, like, their goals are being taken away from them, that sucks more, and I want to do more to avoid that. So, like, in that situation, you know, we kind of talked about it. We talked about it a lot. And we're like, okay, maybe in the future, if there's a decision this big, we can, like, talk out of character a little bit to, like, confirm that it's okay with everyone. It was like an hour-long discussion. A lot of it's in the VOD. I cut it to the point where tensions were higher, which is kind of unfortunate, because like 3 minutes after I cut it, we kind of figured it out and everyone was chill, and I kind of wish that was there too, but it's fine. That's my bad. But we got it figured out, like I said. Talked about checking in out of character with everyone before making a decision like that. Also talked about, like, sharing goals maybe at the start of every session, or at least regularly. So we might, like, start dedicating 10 minutes to the start of the game or something. Usually we kind of build up with some just chatter, warm up that way. We might warm up with just talking about goals and stuff instead. Kind of slip that in there. Just so, like, everyone's kind of more on the same page, right? I think that would have helped quite a lot with a lot of things throughout the campaign. Would have helped me, like, as often as possible, just hearing what players are interested in. That helps me a shitload. It would have probably helped me keep Sam's character interested, which, like, I don't even think Sam's character wasn't even really around when I've been doing recaps, but yeah. would have helped keep him interested. Probably would have helped me keep Eve and keep Gino interested. So, anyway. So I think that's a good idea. Just like syncing on what people want to do, where their goals are going to be. Yeah, that was like in the middle of when we started streaming. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter too much. I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't think Sam was ever there for a streamed game, but he was there a little bit into my recaps and stuff. It was before Explicita even... Yeah, it was before you guys killed Explicita Defilis, which, like, I started prepping for that on stream. And then we started streaming the games sometime after that. Much more recently. Oh yeah, we started streaming games back when you guys got back to Eden after that arc. That's when we started streaming games. So, anyway. So that was basically it for that session. That's where the party is at the moment. They're still kind of going to deal with the repercussions of that. Which, like, no matter which way it goes, I don't think I'm going to make it, like, close the doors on Ludwig's character's goals so much. Like, we're going to kind of keep those doors open. Like, Ludwig's already been introduced, right? He could become... There's a lot of ways to make it happen. He could, like, become... he could be appointed to some position by Solace, like, before Solace loses the throne, right? Could be like, all right, we've got 2 documents to sign today. One is making Ludwig some, like, I don't know, the ambassador of Eden to like, other cities. And the other thing is to make Brass emperor. So, like, we can keep that option open for Ludwig. There's ways to do that, even if it goes in Brass's favor here. So I'm not too worried about it. I'm excited for the next session, excited to go forward. It's always hard because everyone struggles on some level with wanting to be the main character or having screen time for their goals, all while contending with the main story, which is supposed to be a shared party experience. Yeah, conflicting goals can be... I don't even think there are conflicting goals. It's just like, you know, sometimes... Let me start again. I like conflicting goals. I like party tension so much, but not if it makes players uncomfortable. The players have to be in for that, and I don't think Nathan was. So, like, yeah. So making sure that players are in for that is good, and checking in. Yeah, that is helpful, and I'm looking forward to starting to do that in the future. Could make the advisor position a lifelong post, thus even with a new ruler, he would retain his spot. Yeah, it makes sense. There's a lot of ways to handle it so that Ludwig still kind of gets to eat his cake at least, you know, not have his cake taken away. The way I feel about the safety of Eden is really in line with Solace's. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. I think where Solace is coming from makes 100% sense. And it's just like, you know, about the places where you make character concessions for the party, which, yeah, I don't think it has to happen that much, but yeah, just making sure the party's on the same page is nice and good. Making sure that the inter-player character tension that I was talking about doesn't just feel like being cock-blocked, you know? I feel like I've been making them more than a lot of other people, but I'm sure everyone feels that way. Got you. Yeah, that makes sense. I get what you're saying. It took me a minute to resync back up with the line of thought there. Yeah, that makes sense. Probably. I think you probably make more than most of the characters. I would say especially... Maybe I shouldn't say especially anyone. Anyway. I would generally say Eve makes very few concessions for character for the party, which is, you know... I think mostly fine. Like no one should be obligated to do that necessarily, except for very specific situations. Yeah, I think like I said before, part of the, like I said during the discussion, part of the reason it felt so bad maybe is because like the party had just gotten off of an arc where like one player saying one thing literally defined the rest of the arc, and that was like, I have a proposition. Whoever comes back with the head of Salamander gets to be the new emperor. And then the party like went and did that because one player character just said that. And there wasn't really like discussion about it. It was just kind of an off-the-cuff thing that Eve did as a character that then like ballooned into another adventure, which, again, for my purposes, that's great. But like I can see how it wouldn't necessarily feel great for the party. You know, depending on where everyone's at, what everyone wants to do, it can feel like one person just suddenly dictated the next thing, you know. So, feeling like that happens twice in short order could feel pretty bad. I think it's easiest for Solace to do it because he has the most importance in Eden. Eve definitely opened doors, yeah. Solace closed them. That's a fair comparison, I think. It certainly felt that way. Again, as the GM, I'm very open to keeping those doors open, even if it seems like Solace is like nudging them closed or slamming them. You know, there's always other ways, but I can see where Nathan got a little temporarily like kind of disappointed with that direction. Misha, as a player, tends to only care about seeing the story play out and typically doesn't care for her own desires. Prefer to trust that the DM will reward a character player who might have got the sour end of a story element. Yeah, kind of same with my characters, which means it's something I don't keep much of an eye out for. Like, I totally understand it, but like, all of my characters are very, I don't know, play to find out, very, very like flexible. So like, having someone throw the campaign in a new direction is fine. But now I know that it's something to keep an eye out more. There's ways to salvage this, absolutely. Yeah, there's like so many. Oh, that's good, Moto. I'm glad. I'm sorry if I could have done anything to arbitrate that better. Or like, you know, soften it sooner. Like, I probably would have done the exact same thing in your situation, Moto. So like, I pretty frequently do the like find an absurd third route option, and you know, that can swing things pretty wildly, right? So it's something I could have stumbled into as well, pretty easily. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think ashamed is the way you have to feel about it, but hopefully we can relieve that going forward. Misha is having the opposite problem from you and Kingmaker. Oh, the issue she's having is that characters who aren't nearly as invested in having a place in their kingdom. Oh, yeah. Like when it comes time to choose who would be a ruler, everyone just kind of shrugged until a particularly active player reluctantly took the spot. Yeah, that's kind of the way the throne went for our party. Yeah, that is really the way Solace feels, yeah. And it's like kind of a cool thing in character where Solace is like, all right, well, this is kind of my duty now. Like, again, I kind of like that, but really does wish he could just go back to being back to Black Opsing, yeah. I think it's really cool. But yeah. It was definitely kind of a thing thrust upon Solace. I think there was a spot where Eve was like, I would take the throne, and then kind of went like, no, I wouldn't. And so it was just kind of left open, and Solace stepped up, basically. So, I think that's about all I wanted to say for the recap. So I think we're good. So I will I really wish I could be more evil. Solace has potential for that, and I would be interested to see it. All right, so we will hit that, and I think let's see. I'm gonna go back to just chatting for a little bit.